Hey there, I am KashCast, and this is the KashCast, a laid-back anime-focused podcast where I interview artists, animators, and content creators about their work, life, and interests. With me, I have Kay Downs. Kay has worked as an animator on Teen Titans Go to Movies and has been a director and storyboard artist on both Magical Friendship Squad's pilot series and its proper show. I'm super excited to talk to them, and I'll let them talk so they can properly introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Kay, a New York-based animator. I've been working in the industry for like 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of it.
Yeah. So let's just dive right into that. What was your path getting into working with art and working in the industry?
Well, I think every animator, I watched a lot of cartoons as a child.
Yeah.
Shocker. And I just started drawing from there. And when college was approaching, I was like, I could go into comics or animation. I couldn't decide which. But 18-year-old me was smart and was like, animation has money, comics don't. I don't regret this choice. But yeah, then I just went to college at the School of Visual Arts. Graduated in 2012 and have just been working since.
Oh, that's neat. Of course, I also asked South America, but as a fellow New Yorker, what's been your experience working and living in New York, as an artist?
I love New York. I don't want to really leave New York for work purposes, at least to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I don't really care for LA as a city. I'm sure the works is amazing and they have a union, though one studio just got unionized, so hopefully that will trigger a bunch of other unions in New York.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
But LA has a big union, has I don't know if it is true if they have more stable work or not, because It seems kind of hit or miss for some people I know. But as a city, I don't care for LA. I'm from Houston. Houston is huge and widespread and full of traffic, and you have to have a car. Oh. And I left that, and I don't want to live in a city where I have to live like that. So I want to stay here as long as I possibly can. I love a city that I can walk in. There's so much to do. My friends and my emotional base are all here. So I try to make it work in wherever way I could. So I primarily work in ads, which has been it's fine. In that, I enjoy a lot of the work. At the same time, I wish work was more stable. But isn't that everybody? But overall, it's been good. As I said, I've been working for 10 years pretty consistently. I haven't needed any other work outside of animation within these past 10 years. So hopefully that will continue.
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't know. I love New York. It's tough. You constantly have to advocate for yourself. You constantly have to call people out when they're trying to be can you work this weekend? But don't offer pay, don't offer anything. So if you are the type of person that is willing and able to do that, you'll be fine.
And honestly, I can just say that I can completely relate to your experience of having grown up in the South. Personally, I was born in Atlanta, but I've been living but I've been living in Brooklyn since about 2004. I've lived here most of my life, so I consider myself a New Yorker at this point.
Yeah, same.
And and just so much of the atmosphere, there truly is never a dull moment, but I couldn't picture I couldn't picture transitioning to LA, even if it is the hub for a lot of stuff. And I do know a couple people at this point, but it's you don't really hear, from a lot of people who are artists, around here, especially just growing up, as just a fanboy who doesn't really know anything about the process, you kind of just assume that like that's the only spot where things are made.
Yeah.
So especially like with these current circumstances, I agree. Like I hope that we get like more people from other areas like being able to just like just like contribute to productions.
Yeah, I think with the unionization of Titmouse, in addition to maybe one of the few good things COVID's provided is that people can work remotely. And I think a lot of studios are realizing like we don't have to have the work base within the same city.
Right.
So I'm hoping with these two things, it'll be easier to convince people to stay in New York. Because I know a lot of people who want to stay who don't also care for LA, but they want the work. So they leave. And it's sad.
That's a huge transition,
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping things can stabilize here more. Like I said, like I have managed to like make things work here. I know a lot of other people who have, but I know a lot of other people who are tired of like the hustle, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. But I hate driving, so.
Oh my god. No, I agree. Like I never learned because like when you're around here, you kind of don't have to know. You just like
it's true. You don't have to. I mean, I have to in Houston because I have to drive. So I've been driving since I was like 15, and I was done with it after like 4 years.
And it's nuts. I hear from like talking to my folks sometimes, like now in Atlanta, they're kind of like trying to like, retrofit like public transit. And, like you see people like, walking down the freeway, which is surreal because obviously Atlanta wasn't made for that.
No city was really, which is a shame.
Yeah,
because now we're coming into a lot of problems with traffic. LA being one of them, Houston being another, where these cities were built for cars, but not for the population rise that has happened. So it's a tough, sucks.
Yeah. I definitely hope, we can get mellowed out, like whenever this dies down, obviously I don't want like the benefits of remote work to like go with it, but places, like LA, they'd be definitely cool to visit, but I personally couldn't see myself like moving there personally.
Me neither. And I love LA because I have so many friends there.
Yeah.
So my time there is amazing. But I think about like the day-to-day life. I think about when I'm sitting in like a cab and I'm driving, or I'm not driving, but I'm in there for like an hour. And I'm like, I would have to be driving this. This isn't like an inactive commute. Like, because at least when you're on a train, you could just zone out, read a book.
Yeah,
do whatever.
Music or something. Yeah,
but in a car, it's like you can't read. I gotta actually pay attention, or I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, technically you can. You shouldn't. But
you shouldn't. That's true. You can, but you shouldn't.
Yeah, that's like living on hard mode. But to transition to some of the stuff that you do as an artist. Out of all the responsibilities that you've had from directing, design, storyboarding, animating, what do you tend to enjoy the most?
I really like directing. And I really like doing rough animation. I hate cleanup. If I could just do the rough animation and just hand it off to someone else, that'd be amazing. Yeah. But that doesn't always work, especially in commercials. In TV shows, it rules because you just give it to someone else. But I like doing like the actual rough animation. I like directing. I like sitting down, having the meetings of like, what can we do? Like bringing in people who are better at things than I am, like designing, having them like do the work that they're excited about. Like the collaborative process is kind of my favorite part, and like working as like a team. So I think directing has been my favorite aspect of it. Trying to shift my career more towards that than production work. It's going okay.
Just trying your best.
Trying my best. But those are generally my favorites. Character design, I don't think I'm good at, but I like doing it.
Hey, I'll cheer that. But yeah, let's see. Oh, and it's probably one of many questions where I border on the fanboy, so bear with me. But next bullet. I saw from your reel that you did work on Teen Titans Go to the Movies. So,
yes,
what was your experience working on an animated feature, and how did you feel knowing that your team was also a sort of internet memes for a hot minute?
So, we only did the musical section of the Teen Titans movie. It wasn't the entire movie. But I don't know, it was fun. It was a really small team at a really great studio called Hornet. Benji Brooke was the director of the segment that we did. He like designed it and all this stuff, and it was just like really fun to work on. I found out about the Robin Booty meme way after it was like a thing. And there was like I forget his name, sadly. There was a person on YouTube, I don't know if he still does it, but he was doing like meme history and like found out like who was part of the team who made it. So we talked to him for a minute, and I was like, and that's how I found out about it. Like Benji sent it to me. It was like, this is like a meme. This is a thing people are doing, and I was like, it's pretty tight. To be the person who animated the moving ass. It's great.
Oh my god.
I love it. I love having my small sliver of meme history.
Yeah. Man. And I would say like personally, it's like the way I saw the movie in general, like long story short, like I have like an aunt who's like a nut for like movie screens and stuff. And I don't know like what sort of black magic she did to pull this off, but I ended up like seeing it in advance in like the Warner Media building, like in like Times Square, and freaking like Will Arnett like dropped by, like answered some questions at the beginning. It was nuts. So yeah, it was a really great experience, honestly. But then just like not only just like seeing that like on the big screen, that was nuts. But like I was just with like some younger family members too, and just being around the kids and stuff. Like they had a great time. So I think I think that was like the best part, honestly. But no, I didn't accept Warren either. I'm not gonna.
That's cute.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was. Oh no! I'm sorry. The last thing I want to do. Yeah, the last thing I want to do is cut you off.
That's okay. But yeah, it was fun. Like it was like action, and the song was in my head for months. Is the only thing about it that like kind of was horrible. Because you have like some lip syncing to do, so you have no choice but to listen to it, or like you have to like hit certain beats of the song or something. It was just like but it's cool. Like I like doing action stuff, so that was fun. To do like not it's just the ass shake, but like some of the fighting.
yeah. And I think honestly that's like a pretty understandable fear to like do like even like an animator or like a board like time to like one of your favorite songs as like a project, because like at the end of it, if it's your favorite song, it will not be your fairite song at the end of it. No,
you'll be over it pretty quickly.
You just feel the eye twitching. So next question, how was your experience on how was your experience in working on MGFS, and what was it like working in a pandemic and seeing the show transition from origins to the final product?
So the pandemic sucked. So before this job, I was unemployed for like I think like 2 months. So it was really stressful because it was like not a planned unemployment for that long. And
of course.
So I was really stressed out and excited and like kind of going stir crazy because like I'm broke, so I'm not really going anywhere. Like I'll see my friends, but we can't like go to bars as much. Like can't spend as much money. And I was excited because I was like, I'm going to go to a place every day. It's a 15-minute bike ride from where I live. Like it rules. and excited to direct and like work with my friends was the other thing, and all this stuff. And we had that beautiful moment for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It was 2 or 3 weeks, and then we were told like you have to work from home, and I was like, it, you know, it's weird, because like generally when working from home, like everyone should, if they haven't, develop like coping mechanisms for like not overworking, for not getting like depressed by staying in your house all the time, by being able to like keep some degree of productivity without burning out. And I didn't have any of those. Because like for me, it's like I make plans with my friends. That way, like I know I'm gonna leave the house. I give myself little errands to do, so that way I'm like, well, I have to be done at this time because I said I would do this thing. And when you can't leave your house, it's kind of difficult to do. That, and it's kind of difficult to gauge like where your team's mental health is.
Right.
Because for a lot of people, they just type stuff and they'll just be like, haha, yeah, I'm doing great. And they're like crying on their lunch break, if they're even taking a lunch break.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to do check-ins because you don't actually know what people are doing, because I think the fear is like, well, you are authority and I'm not doing well.
Right.
So I'm afraid this will reflect badly on me. So I'm just going to tell you everything's fine and the workload is okay and I'm doing fine. And we had to have a few meetings about like team mental health or like throughout the production to make sure everyone was doing okay. And, you know, not everyone was. And it was like kind of difficult to navigate that, because it's one thing if you're in person, because you could see them, you could see how they're feeling, what they're doing. It's easy to be like, hey, we all had a bad day. Let's go to the bar. Like, let's like, as a team, as people, like, let's socialize and go do something. And when you're remote, you don't have that. And I think this is still a problem continuing to now. Cause like, I still have bad work days, even if I'm at home. In the comfort of my house, it doesn't matter. But like, it's hard to be like, this other person I'm working with is also having a hard time, but we can't like go get drinks. We can't just like, you can't have like small conversations during lunch to just like do like little team building, like something along the lines of that. So I found it really difficult. And I think the pandemic also affected the way the show was promoted. Which is a shame. Because I don't know, because I know they had like the Comic-Con thing, but imagine if that were in person. It would have been like more compelling. It would have brought in more people. Instead, it's like, watch this Zoom screening of like this interview. And it's like, you have to like kind of voluntarily check into that, as opposed to walking around being like, what's this? So it overall wasn't great and difficult. And I don't know, tried my best checking in with people, trying to make it clear of like, I'm not here to like rat you out, dude. Just tell me if you're having a hard time. But I get it. On the other hand, like, you know, I think especially in animation, people, animation's full of a lot of introverts, and it's really hard to get them to be like, tell me how you're feeling actually. But it got done amazingly enough. Like, that's the part that's crazy. It got done. And I think it came out as amazing as it could given the circumstances. But yeah, that's my pandemic experience.
And honestly, obviously, you know, like, I don't have like animation experience yet. Around that time, I was still like a full-time college student, and I'm pretty sure I said this before on the show, but around that time, I had like an internship, just like working with like special needs people, and that internship was actually like, going like really well. I remember like the day or two before like COVID hit, I had like this great plan where to like get people involved, like this little like computer program that I did for clients, and then I wake up and I'm not supposed to leave the house, and everything just crumbled, you know. So like, no, mental health is like a really big aspect, and I can't commend like the production, like actually like taking the time to just like check in, because like as a college student trying to navigate like 1.5 semesters, trying to graduate into this pandemic, it was rough. The energy was
No,
not there. Like some people just
the
like,
vibes were bad.
yeah, some people just like didn't want to, or like felt comfortable like even showing their face, which I can't blame them from like many circumstances. Even people that physically, it feels different like
Yeah,
communicating with them online versus people that you meet online. It's a weird thing, but I feel like everyone
yeah,
kind of knows. It's just not really something that we talk about.
yeah,
And it really is like just rough. And I feel for people who like still in like education having to deal with these challenges, because apparently it is not getting any better.
mm.
Um, oh God, but I'm definitely glad I got it when I could. And again, of course I'm gonna be biased because of the fact that it is made in New York, but the fact that, this was a show that like, homegrown in a way that, I definitely felt like a certain level of respect that I feel like most people aren't going to have. And I know in a perfect world, it would have been like a lot more polished. But as someone who had to do a lot of personal projects, including that video, sometimes you just have to do what you can and just like keep on pushing forward as to like what you can do
Yeah.
forward.
I mean, it's a combination of budget along with, a pandemic. So in addition to
Yeah.
that, we had to make sure everyone had equipment and the programs. And some people don't, but that had to be provided. And then like some people's internet connections aren't great. And then you're also dealing with like producers from like the higher up on sci-fi that have their opinions about how it should be. So it's one of those things you can only do so much like to some degree. But like I think for what we could do, I think it's great. There are a lot of changes I wish I could make, but the higher ups, like you can only do so much.
Yeah, there's just like so much that like people just like don't know that you guys have like very little, if any, control of.
Yeah, there's some control. There's control, but
yeah,
it's one of those things where you have to kind of start picking your battles.
Yeah.
I know for Corvin, his design was such a battle.
Yeah.
And it kind of got to this point where we kind of had to be like, okay, well, if we give them Corvin, we could probably get the Daisy design that we want. Because Daisy was also like a nightmare to get nailed down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have like 12 versions of her, I think. At least 12 that we had to like go through before like sci-fi was satisfied with it. But I know with Corvin they were getting so mad because we kept like giving him a little crop top, and they were the reasoning was crazy too. They're like, well, he works for an office, you don't dress like that in an office. And it's like, they also have a talking red panda, and like they turn into magical girls. I don't know what part of this needs to be real do you not get, but
yeah, like it's New York, but it's not like that down to earth. Like, come on, like you can have fun.
Yeah, and his first design, if I remember right, or one of the ones that we kind of compromised on, was like a crop top, like Oxford button-up shirt with like the tie that went longer than it. Yeah, and we were like, it's businessy, right? That was the one where they got mad. We're like, okay. Okay. But yeah, there's a lot. Like I remember reading a tweet once of someone that was like, well, if I were the director of this show, I would have changed X, Y, and Z about the script and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't think you know what a director does, because like I didn't have any say on the script. So it's just definitely funny to see that kind of stuff, because it's like, good luck.
Yeah.
The showrunner does, but not the director.
Right.
These are two different jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has like their own, everyone has their own responsibilities. And like in regards to in the criticism, I always like find it, I don't know, I always like find it like kind of frustrating sometimes, because like, many shows like have like a lot of these challenges. Like sometimes you don't even like hear about them, you know, because like sometimes they just aren't even that big a deal. But I guess like, you know, you could have like two shows like very similar pipelines and deal with the exact same circumstances. But if one is more well regarded in terms of like internet's consensus, they'll either like ignore it or just like, you know, hand wave it. But if it's not, with the case of Magical Friendship Squad, you know, like it's just unfairly put like, you know, so much of stuff where it's like, no, these people can't draw apparently, where it's like, you know, come on.
I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't really care about any crit that comes from bad faith.
Yeah.
It's not worth the time. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth any of the energy. So a lot of it was like taken in bad faith. Which on one hand can be frustrating, but on the other, it's kind of like, I'm not going to get through to this person anyway. So
why bother? Yeah.
Why bother? But what I did like were the like criticisms that like came in good faith, that like came in saying, this part's good, this part's good. I wish it had X, a little bit of Y, but it has A, B, and C. And it's kind of like, cool. Like, yeah. And chances are I agreed with that person too. Like, right. But when people come in being like, Gamergate, this is so old. It's like, yeah, that's from the pilot in 2015. That's when it was made. When that was relevant.
Yeah, I really, no, and again, just like, I'm just like a fan, but like I felt frustrating because it was like so many of those clickbait videos, they're like intentionally using Origins assets to just like really poorly represent like the whole show. And it's like, come on.
Yeah, I think there's two things that happen. One, again, the bad faith thing. People are pulling things from bad faith and like seeing this. The other, I think, is Sci-Fi did a really stupid thing and for some reason had both of the shows on, available online. And I think that confused people. And I don't blame them for being confused because for a lot of people, they're like, this looks horrible. And I'm like, yeah, I did everything. And it was a bad idea. And it's from 2015 and 2016. But like, but it's confusing because you see both of these things. You see the promotion and you're like, well, which one is it? And hopefully you would go with the good one and not the ugly one. But, so people, again, bad faith, want to take it and be like,
right,
look at this horrible Trump design. It's like, yes, because it was 2016 when this was relevant. And I boarded, designed, did the animatics for, did all the keyframes for, like, I had too much on my plate.
Yeah.
So yes, took a lot of hits.
And I'm just like saying personally, because like in this like process of, not only just like analyzing, just like shows, but also just like doing my own stuff and try to break the industry. There's just like so much stuff where I look and see like, I could not do this. Hats off to people who can do this because like, oh my God. So it's like, I mean, you're already like saying it's like, I bet's work, it's like whatever because, like we all, but it's like, I could never, because just like that's the year in general, just like is like so, it's just like so ready not only just like call something shit, but to like assume that's like, people intentionally want to make bad things, which,
Yeah, which is always weird to me. It's like, why would someone want to make a bad thing?
Yeah.
It's like, clearly this is like someone whoever says this hasn't tried making something, I think is really what it is. And at the end, because like after a certain point, when you're working, especially in like a commercial aspect, you have deadlines, you have a budget, you have all these things you have to consider. And that's, part of the deal. It's like cheap, easy, and fast. And you could pick two.
Yeah.
Is what you have to tell the client. So if they want it cheap and they want it fast, it's not going to be good. If they want it cheap and they want it good, it's not going to be fast. And if they want it fast and they want it good, it won't be cheap. So
yeah,
this is what happens.
Yeah. Like, even if, like, any listeners, like, aren't even, like, working in animation, just, like, picture like this, there are assignments that you absolutely phoned in just to get in before a deadline, and you might have still gotten a good grade. But, like, the stuff you're actually passionate about, like, you got, like, plan that stuff, maybe even like weeks in advance in order to like actually have it turn out well. And if you're working with like other people, you know, it's not even just like doing your part, it's making sure that your part fuses well with like everyone else is doing. And of course, since like you're a director, you literally have to like manage that. Yeah. So, you know, it's all everyone else just like a cog in the machine in a good way, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so to finally transition to another bullet, while we're still talking about MGFS, well, since you worked on both, you can say it like for both. But what were your favorite episodes to work on?
Origins is done over.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I loved having the opportunity to do it. Yeah. It's just one of those things where I was given a lot to do, and all I had for help was like my assistant Sarah, who did the backgrounds. And I had interns do the in-betweens and the cleanups. And that was kind of the team. Otherwise, like, I designed it, animated, comped it, like all this stuff where like when you're doing boards and you know you're going to animate it, your boards are going to be pretty easy.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like, I have to animate this. Let's make it a little easier.
Yeah.
Especially when there's a time limit and like all this stuff. But
yeah.
But my favorite episode was the second episode, which was the one where Nuts World got introduced.
Right.
There was like no description of it on the script. Like, it just kind of was like a little vague. And I was like, well, if this is about like fan fiction and fandom and like this kind of world, then let's just make Nuts World that. And it was kind of fun to make the designs like be like the old GeoCities websites. And, like, the web rings, and like the kids came out of the web rings, and that's how they like go through different universes. Like, that was really fun to put together. I had a blast. I got to do most of the like the thumbnails for the storyboarding on that. So that was cool. Like, it felt like an idea I had, like, design wise, and like all this stuff got implemented, even though the script like did not have anything at all. So proud of that.
Yeah.
So the second episode's my favorite. Made them like hot topic-y goth kids. It was just fun to kind of just be nostalgic in an episode. But that one's my favorite.
A bit more of a general question, but
sure.
After MGFS, do you personally have any wishes, and what would you like to see next in terms of prominent LGBT representation in animation?
So I have a hot take. I don't care about representation. What I want are queers to be at the helm of projects, rather than making a show that panders to queers. So what I mean by that
please explain.
If there was a show that came out where like the main character is this non-binary character, but I don't care about the story, the representation means nothing to me.
Valid.
And if it's not a show ran by someone of that who's non-binary, or written, has at least one person of the writing team, like, I don't care.
Right.
I want queers to be able to make the projects they want to make. I don't even necessarily mean this in just animation, because we get a lot of queer representation in kids' cartoons, which is great, because kids should see these things. Kids should feel represented. At the same time, I don't care about kids' cartoons. So I would like to see more things made by queer people in general, like at least in a mainstream way, which we are getting in live action. We've been getting in books forever. Like, so with animation, I would hope that we can also implement these things, but it's not representation alone that matters to me. I like want to see more people make their thing. But yeah, I also don't, at this point in my life, I don't feel the need to be validated by the things that I'm watching. I don't want a mirror. I want a window. I want to look at what people are doing and what they want to make stories about. I don't need I don't need a non-binary character in animation to feel good about myself, which some people do, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I just hope at some point in your life, you just depend on yourself for validation rather than trying to find it in media, because media is not going to do it, especially if it's commercial, especially in animation, because it costs so much money. The only place you might see it are independent film tracks, but like, I don't know. I think a lot of people depend on media to feel validated, which I think is fine if you're young, because I think when you're young, and by young I mean like teenagers, like even early 20s to some degree, like you need that. You want to feel valid because you're young, and chances are like you live in a place where like you don't get that. So I think it's important then. I would just hope you would transition into making yourself be validated.
Right.
But that's my hot take about representation in media.
Honestly, that's like valid. I largely agree with you. And like, this is stuff that I've like talked about like with a couple of my friends who I originally worked on the video with, hint, hint.
Yeah.
But honestly, but no, I agree. I feel like the point, especially made about like kids animation, guilty as charged someone who avidly consumes it. But I do still think, especially when it comes to rep, especially when it comes to LGBT rep, I feel like most people look to that as a frame of reference. So it feels like when you have something like MGFS, like Q-Force even, where it's like centering on adults, like not everything is like super sanitized or clean or conform to Y7 rating. People don't like that. And of course, so much discourse as to like whether or not, gay or queer, gay or queer characters are allowed to just be, like fuck ups, because like we are fuck ups. So it's like, you can't have even like a flawed but good character like Daisy, for instance, let alone like an anti-hero villain, because people are, I'd say, understandably worried that like this character would be used as a way to just like spread hate to this particular group. But at the same time, like assholes, slackers, people like that still exist. Not like those like bad character traits get undone because like someone has to be gay or queer. And I feel like using that like holds people back from like real nuanced characters, so
I agree with that. I think there's a weird sanitation that a lot of like queers want, especially with like adult stuff. I know for like a lot of people were like criticizing like, Daisy smoking weed, and it was like, damn, aren't you gay? Like I'm sorry. drugs, clubs, like, poppers. These are the things queers have like had for a while. But that's me, in my opinion. But like, I don't know, who's a moral queer? That was it's like they don't want messy people. All I know are messy queers. But it's just it's really weird. Especially when it's like for grown-ups. Like you want a nuance. I hope one day in America we can have an adult animated show that's not comedy. So these nuances can be part of the story, because I think the problem that happens is you're dealing with comedy most of the time in adult animation. So you can only get so nuanced, and you can only dive so far into a character before we have to pull it back and make a joke. But
sometimes you really want to like hammer in and like talk about a certain issue or perspective, and you just can't. And also I feel like a problem with rep, especially again in terms of like kids animation, is that like I feel like, and this could even me personally saying, this could even like go beyond a queer rep, if you want look at it in that perspective. But something that has kind of bugged me is just the idea that like if you have a character, like say they're non-binary, they have to be marketed as such and they have to introduce the concept, and that's just them instead of just having that character just existing. And
and I think for kids media that kind of makes sense, mostly because you're dealing with children who are learning, and that's like that is at the end of the day the primary focus are children and teaching them. But I definitely have it's funny you bring this up because I read a book a while ago. I will just say I read a book, or I read part of the book. It's supposed to be for adults, but it came off as so YA to me, and I was getting frustrated by it. And at one point, it's a sci-fi book. It's like a person on like the part of this crew. They're like doing this weird time travel thing. And at one point, there's like a species in here that uses they, them pronouns. And they explained they, them pronouns in the book. And I was like, this is supposed to be a book for adults? Like, I don't need this. Just let it live. Like, just trust your work and trust your audience, man. Like, come on.
I still cannot believe that they, them pronouns didn't become an issue until people actually want to be referred to as them.
Well, it's singular now, which is a problem.
Yeah.
What are you, even two people? Come on.
So many times. Or I've known people, even IRL, who just like don't want to do that. But then like if they're talking about like some other person, like another family member, they can use they, them, no problem. Yeah. But if you say specifically someone only wants to be referred to as like, nah, I don't want the alphabet police to get on me.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, for kids, that's I think a reasonable thing to do, and like to explain things, and like I think representation within kids media is important because I think that's how kids learn. They see things that they usually may not see before. Like they'll like learn all kinds of cultural things. So with that, it makes sense. I just wish we didn't have that same idea or that same desire put into adult media.
Right.
Because at this point, it's like, I don't need the non-binary character if it's not gonna be a good story. Right. Give me a good story, and if it happen to be non-binary, tight.
Yeah. But and honestly, I guess to compliment your own hot take on my own, I will just be honest, as someone who feels non-binary, I don't really see any rep with like people who are AMAB or just like still present mask or anything like that. I half joke, and I'm speaking on like most of Twitter as someone who actually still enjoys TV Universe. But I definitely feel frustrated because I feel like people just assume not only that the only way to be non-binary is AFAB, but you have to look and present a certain way. And just any of that, it just doesn't do anyone any favors. And
I agree. Yeah.
And I've definitely just like kind of felt frustrated because it's like, because I am the way I am, I don't feel like people are going to perceive me as any way other than dude bro, but I don't feel like a dude bro. I feel like me, and like people should respect that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think AMAB non-binary people kind of have it pretty shitty. Yeah. I think especially when you're not trying to be, I think for people in general too, like if you're not trying to be androgynous, if you're not trying to dress a certain way, present a certain way, like maybe you'll flag certain things, but like that might be it. Like I think a lot of people have a hard time with that too. I also have like very femme AFAB non-binary friends, and they go through the same thing too. But I think it's just it's no good.
It truly is a spectrum at the end of the day. It's not like woman light or anything, like just people really do need to like, I don't know, just like step outside their comfort zone and just like really understand that like people can come across like many different shapes and forms, many pronouns, many ways to present. And, I don't know. I guess like I do feel like not just like animation, but like mainstream media in general really needs to step outside of that, and just like, and maybe just like do some research in terms of like non-binary representation,
Well, this is what I'm saying about queers making the media,
Yeah.
because then you can have those nuances and you can have those conversations and you can have like hopefully this be implemented. But again, it's also hard because you're usually run by a studio or a distributor that may not understand it either. But nonetheless, like I think there's still a lot of really good like queer media being made. I just do wish animation would like in general step up to more adult things that isn't just comedy based, and it doesn't even need to be like queer at that point for me. Even. Like I just at some point want to watch like a political drama that just happens to be animated, or like a sci-fi movie that isn't just like great action but like is a bit more like speculative fiction. Granted, we'll find this in anime.
That's exactly what I was gonna bring up.
So like it's in anime. I just wish that America get their shit together.
Like if you're like the wrong person who says that, like you're the type of person who says that and like you actually have a brain. Like half of Twitter people who say that, they just want to poo-poo like any and all Western animation are probably like those Gamergate nerds and Origins, if we're gonna be honest. But I feel like that's the thing with anime that I do want Western animation, because like it's not just like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Sailor Moon. There are like so many different types of shows for so many different types of people. There are even examples of like niche mega shows that are originally made for kids, find an audience of adults, and they just like stick with that, and they're still super successful because they're still with that creative vision. So I would definitely like a lot of that. I feel like the hurdle that we'd have to go through is just maybe just like relying more on original stories, even if they're not focused on rep, just like original stories, period, original IPs, and not as many stuff that's based on existing, even though there's a lot of stuff I do like that are based on them. But it's like, just like all the stuff, Space Jam 2, Smash Bros, Ready Player One, all the stuff, sometimes it just kind of just like burnt out. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think that's a big problem in media right now. Is we've been writing this nostalgia train for a really long time.
For most of my existence, it's just been like 90s nostalgia. We're only barely into 2000s now.
I know. And it's just like, damn, man. How many Star Wars do we need? How many Marvel movies do we need?
Oh man, I want to get sidetracked, but like I got opinions on the MCU. I will definitely say that much. Gonna have to get like a different show at this point.
But yeah, I think just having different types of stories, which like indie animation has some, but you got really dig for that stuff. A lot of like European animation has some TV shows and movies too, but like they're not really broadcasted here.
You really have to like already like know a guy or know a person, who either really keeps up with that stuff or is making any products themselves. And I feel like if you're in that deep, you might as well just like make something yourself at that point. You know what I mean? Yeah. But wow. I did not expect that to go that long, but it was a very great conversation. Cool. Regardless. Yeah,
I was like, I wonder how this answer for this question's going. So I think I have an unpopular opinion.
But let's see. Just to try to bend into like lighter territory. What are some of your interests, influences, or hobbies, and how or if do you incorporate them to your work?
I try to keep my work and my hobbies very separate. Because I need to not work. But my interests, my hobbies, it's I do a lot of cooking. I've been getting into making cocktails, making nice drinks has been my thing now because I'm in my 30s and drinking a lot sucks now for me physically. So I'm like, well, if I'm gonna drink, I might as well drink something nice.
Right.
So I do weightlifting. Ooh. I read a lot, watch a lot of movies. A little. That's kind of it. That's just like my interests, my hobbies. Go on long walks. As far as influences relating to work go, also has been a really big one. My friends in general are really amazing artists, and I think more than anything, they're probably the ones that inspire me the most.
Yeah.
Because I look at what they're doing and I'm like, well, I gotta do something cool too. So I gotta do this. But yeah, I find this question hard to answer, like what my influences are, because I think after a certain point, you kind of not forget who your influences are, but you kind of stop looking for them in the same way. At least like I did, like when I was like younger and like starting and like and working in college, like I would just like constantly be conscious of what I was consuming all the time, as far as like I like this and this and this. And now that I'm older, it's like, well, I like this media and I like this. How does it influence my work?
That's a good question.
Because you try to like, I think when you're younger, you try to emulate the things that you're influenced by. But as like you get older, more comfortable, and you figure out your style, you figure out the things that you like, your influences are a little bit more nebulous. Yeah. Like you're not taking from it per se, but you've been inspired by it. And now you want to take this thing and how do you make it yours?
Right.
But that didn't really answer your question. But
no. It was cool. It's cool. And it was honestly like a good point when it comes to developing a style, because I know when, again, being an overly dorky high school animation fan, I could like very squarely name my influences at the time, and some of them are still my influence, like Rebecca Sugar, Ian JQ, Calcarosa, people like that. But nowadays, especially, the fact that I'm putting more work in my art and like, looking at a lot of reference material, which listeners, you should do that, by the way, please.
It's true.
I'm more interested in just like general aesthetics, like sometimes just like a singular piece of art that someone does that, scratches that itch. Like I'm really into like, urban stuff, like some hot-blooded like anime stuff, slick Y2K aesthetics, just like general-ish ideas instead of just like specific artists' work, because sometimes a person's catalog doesn't entirely encompass that.
Yeah, it's true. So I think like your influences become, I guess I'm trying to think how to word this. I think there's less emulation and more like actual absorption of an influence that becomes yours, rather than like emulation of trying to be a thing. Because at the end of the day, like your work should be yours and how you want to do it, as opposed to, well, I want to be like Akira Toriyama. Like Akira Toriyama already did it. He's been doing it. No one can top that man. It's like, do something else.
Yeah, you can take someone else's path, but you gotta do things your way, because you're not gonna do it in the same way they do it, Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and you know what? Screw it. I think this I'm very tongue-tied today.
That's okay.
So I think this like actually ties like decently into like just general talking about art. As someone who is currently a total daisy, as in being a struggling broke queer artist in your 20s looking for employment, do you have any advice or relevant experiences for people who may have to work outside of animation for a while before they break in?
First and foremost, there's no shame in that. I think a lot of people beat themselves up trying to do that, but you got to do what you got to do to make ends meet. In addition to that, I think for a lot of people who get into animation, they also learn that they don't like doing it anymore. And I don't think there's any shame in leaving it either. Yeah. A lot of people who went to animation and ended up becoming like tattoo artists, became illustrators, became designers, went into motion graphics, even went into like live action. Some people even like left art to pursue other types of careers. So I think having no shame in deciding this isn't for you, and also no shame in like needing to work a side job in order to make things work.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is like, if you do get hired for like freelance jobs, is like, you should be honest with your producer about what your time limits are and like what budget you need in order to focus on the job itself. Like, don't work 2 jobs if you can help it, but that's hard.
Yeah.
But for other people starting out, know the difference between a W-2 and a 1099. Save for your taxes if you have a 1099, because I know a lot of people who get fucked on taxes. It's not a thing nobody talks about. So, very unsexy advice, but like, it's one thing that I know a lot of people get fucked over. Be able to stand up for yourself. Know that if they ask you to work overtime, get paid. If they book you for a job and then they're like, well, just kidding, the job's over, get a kill fee. Don't get fucked. If you can't do it, tell them. If the budget's too low, tell them. If you can't do the job, recommend a friend.
Yeah.
It's the other thing. Your friends are your best allies. And talk about how much money you make to everybody. Like, that's how unions get started. That's how people know that they're being treated unfairly too.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't be ashamed to ask people, like, what's your day rate? And like, they tell you, be like, cool, I've been charging $100 less. It's like, you gotta rise it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've definitely looked into it. I don't know, I've seen like the work culture where like, like maybe in just like in general jobs, like people kind of feel kind of afraid, kind of awkward, just like talk about like how much they make.
Stupid. That's how people get fucked. That's how people get paid less. It's how some guy who doesn't know the job that you do but tells you what to do makes 6 figures. Like, take his money. Come on. You're only going to be able to do that if you know how much other people around you are making. Yeah,
absolutely. And just with my my personal experience, like I had said earlier and probably many times on the show, like I did not have like any education traditionally when it comes to art animation. It was just like a little like bug that like festered its way into like the back of my skull when I was a kid, and it's still here. So I figured,
oh man, like, got a parasite, dude.
Literally, yeah.
I'm gonna get that checked out.
I'll do it when I first learn storyboarding. There you
go. It'll leave then. He'll be like, this is too much work.
But nah, for real. I've always been like passionate about this stuff, and I feel like I'm at this point in my life where I feel like even though I know I'm on step 1 out of 1,000 in terms of making it, like I'm on the path, because like I personally, have just been in like tech majors or, social work and stuff where it's like, those like endearing, and I definitely have positive experiences for them, but like especially in the pandemic, I kind of didn't want to just do something that would make my family happy when they're not going to be the ones doing the job, and I shouldn't have to just like bury something that I've been passionate about since I'm a kid just to make everybody happy. Like, no, I guess it is just, kind of surreal because like I feel like I'm definitely playing catch up with a lot of my peers who like.
How old are you?
I am 23.
Oh, you're fine. You're so young. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know.
You're not behind. You're fine.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel between like people who are younger than me, who are like 10 times above like skill wise, like having peers who like are in like skill, say LA,
skill
went to college.
You could catch up on. Yeah. Skill you could catch up on. The one great thing about college because I know there's like always been the big Twitter debate about whether going to art school or not. The big one that gives you a huge boost is connections. And if you are just like a social person that is just like out here trying to meet people, granted we're in a pandemic, it's kind of hard to do now.
Yeah.
But like you're just out here trying to meet people, talk to people, talk about their work, talk about your work, like you'll catch up. Like skill is just practice, and that's all it is. And so long as like you have like a good group of like friends that are willing to like talk about each other's work and like help each other, you'll be fine. Yeah. You're 23. Come on.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you got time.
Yeah. It's just like COVID just really got me like thinking bad brain. It's like, oh God, I gotta like find something. Yeah. Even like non-animation jobs, like I haven't had like any luck. And it's like, no, I get this bachelor degree just like having jobs.
It's also a tough time, like not only just the pandemic, but also like as far as freelance jobs go, like winter's kind of the weird dead period.
Yeah.
So it's a little harder to find jobs, usually in like December and January. So you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it, you know. And while I am like focused on character design, just to get to this point, I've had to learn with legally acquired copies of Adobe products.
Of course. What other way is there?
I have no idea.
No idea. Sounds crazy.
Yeah, but I've had to learn and dabble with like a lot of the suite at this point, which I don't know, in time I'm pretty sure will just like make things a bit easier, but it's like I feel like I have to learn a lot of stuff to catch up just to look like more desirable, I guess.
No, I think at the end of the day, what you need is like a basic knowledge of certain programs. Being if you're trying to do design, what are you trying to go in for?
I'm focusing on character design. Yeah,
character design. You just need to know Photoshop.
Honestly.
Okay, like Photoshop, and then the other important thing, especially for animation, is like figuring out what is a design that people can actually animate.
Yeah,
is like the other thing, and like turnarounds and making sure those are all even. Like it's kind of you just need Photoshop. You don't need to like catch up on like 5 million things. Just like pick a theme, make a bunch of characters based off of it, and then just start sending that shit out. And prop design is another thing that like, a lot of people underutilize. So I think that's a thing you should possibly like do as well. That's my advice. I don't know. I think none of the like if you have like skills and like you are practicing those skills, like at the end of the day, what matters more is your capability of like working with people, and if you hit a deadline. Yeah, that's been my experience like with people too. Like I've met a lot of amazing artists, and some of them are like impossible to work with, and like so they don't get consistent work.
Right.
And it's the opposite, where there's some people where like their work is like fine, but they're amazing to work with, and they are nebulous, or not nebulous, but like they can work with like a lot of different styles and like morph and do styles that other people are doing really easily. So just keep at it.
Yeah.
Just you don't need 5 million programs. You don't have to look like also some jobs are willing to teach you what the programs are.
Right.
I learned Toon Boom on a job. I didn't learn in school. Like, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is just like how like my brain works. Because I feel like if I wasn't doing stuff like this, like I would just be freaking decaying at home. So just like hold myself accountable, just like learn new things, try new things, you know. Yeah, that's definitely like helped me cope in this pandemic.
No, of course. No, I just don't think you have to think of it as playing catch up. You're at where you're at, and you're just you'll be better. Yeah,
exactly. Just gotta take it one step at a time.
Exactly. There's no catch up here. I know a lot of people who didn't even go to college for animation.
Yeah.
They do it. So I know people who used to work in tech and now they're in animation. Like, it's fine.
And honestly, like I'm gonna use that to segue. Like how you personally have been working in terms of like having a proper like work-life balance during and I guess like currently in the pandemic?
It's way worse than it used to be. I used to be really, really strict about my work-life balance. I wouldn't answer emails after a certain time. I would like leave work at like right on the dot. I would not answer emails over the weekend. But I think because of the pandemic, a lot of people were getting really, really job anxious. And I think it was starting to hurt me by actually having boundaries. So I had to start answering emails at night when I didn't want to do that. I had to start answering emails over the weekend to be like, yes, I want this job. Like, I'm available. When it's just like, damn, you can wait till Monday. Why do I have to answer now? Because chances are someone's going to answer more quickly than me.
Yeah.
So there's that. And as far as like, I try to stick to not answering emails at a certain time. It's hard to tell when like I should and shouldn't.
Yeah.
Used to be easier. And then I turn Slack off after a certain time on a job. Cause like, I'm not here to hear your notes at like 8:00 at night. And I try to once again have goals, social goals to like get me out of the house.
Yeah.
Which now that we're dealing with this huge Omicron wave sucks. But no, it's tough out here, man. I think a lot of people are workaholics, and I think workaholism is literally the most boring addiction. Like, if you're like, come on, to work, like at least like go party. But like I can't stand workaholics, and because then there's the expectation that you should also be stressed out about work all the time. And I'm like, nah, dude, I just want to like go make dinner, hang out with my friends, go walk my dog, like literally do anything else. So I try to enforce that with other people when they're like, can you work late? It's like, yeah, but you were gonna pay me more, right? And they're like, no. It's like, well,
well, I'm out.
Yeah. So it's just trying to put down these boundaries. Does it hurt me? I don't know. I have no idea. If like one of these boundaries to some degree make someone go like, well, we don't want to hire that person. They don't work weekend. That's crazy.
Well, I feel like advocating for yourself, like, it's just like basic human stuff. So it's like if people are like gonna like look over you for that, like they're probably not worth working with.
Well, yes, it's true. But also I have bills. My bills don't care about that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, of course. I'm not hired yet. So like
so it's tough. No, it's tough. It's tough. I think I was hoping this pandemic would teach people that we don't have to work all the time. And we could turn it off a little bit. And we could be a little nice to each other and to ourselves, knowing that we're in a bad time. And maybe you should take the extra hour on your lunch break. Maybe you should leave work a little early. Maybe you should like give this work to someone else to help facilitate things. Instead, it's been horrible.
Yeah.
People are like doubling down on things a lot of the time. And I'm like, damn, man, like, do you not have other things you want to do? Like, I get, like, if work is your coping mechanism, but don't put that on other people.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I ask.
Yeah. No, God, like, I feel like just me going through, like, education, but again, a lot of these pitfalls just, like, magnified times 10 just trying to graduate my final semester. And it just resulted in me just being the type of person where I feel like even if there's nothing for me to do, if I'm not working on something, I feel bad. And I don't like that.
No, it's bad. And it's a really, really hard mentality to get out of.
Yeah.
Especially if you are also in a career where other people are thinking like this. Like you start to think, well, this is just normal. This is what you're supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel bad for not working.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dude, go take a rest. Like, go watch a movie. Go play a game.
Yeah.
See a friend. Like, you don't have to work all the time.
Yeah. Like I literally got a Switch like a couple weeks ago, but I barely use it.
Why? What are you doing?
Portfolio stuff. YouTube.
That's fair, but you gotta balance this shit out.
Yeah. Ironically, that's something I do miss about college, where it's just like felt like easier to just like have my own personal schedule. But when you're living with your folks who operate on their own schedule, it's way harder.
That's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's understandable. Especially it's like, and it's especially weird when like they literally like go in like to bed like at a completely different time than you. So it's like everyone just like out of sync. It's like, oh my god, I definitely need more sleep, but if I get to like the mid of my just like my mid 20s and I have to like go to bed like 10 p.m., like I'm gonna feel like I'm dead inside. I want to be that tired.
Oh god.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, it's hard. I think for artists too in general, because like your hobbies and your work often coincide.
Yeah.
And I've also been struggling with that. Like, like I decided this year that I'm not gonna pursue art for fun. Mostly because I constantly put it back into work. I just started thinking, well, is this good for my portfolio? Is this good? Is this going to do well on social media? And it's like, I don't want to make work for that reason, but it's really, really difficult to make the disconnect. So I'm actively deciding, like, just don't do something till you miss doing it. So I haven't been making art lately at all. But mostly out of like the conscious decision to see like, what am I going to miss about it? Like what was fun for me? Because I can't even untangle that currently from like what I do for work. So it's been interesting because I'm starting to miss making things, but I haven't quite figured out what it is I miss about doing it. And I'm still thinking, well, is it going to fit in a reel? It's like, no, that's not the point.
Yeah.
So I'm figuring this out. As well.
Like honestly, I've had like some of those, like a lot of the stuff that you're saying, I've been thinking about myself lately, because it's like, while I am glad and appreciate that I have a direction as to like goals to work towards, art is also just self-expression, now a lot of people, even when it's just making like funny autobiographical comics, not necessarily just like about like their experience, it's just like funny shit, like that's just expressing itself. But I feel, I guess I just feel weird doing that on social media when it's like, not every art piece should be super cleaned up. Not every art piece should be, like just for a reel, whatever. If I want to like make like a stupid comic based on some stuff I say with my friends, I should. But it feels like there's the expectation that like, especially when you have like, bigger people following you, you want to show that you're progressing, like you're working towards stuff, which is fair. But like, again, art is expressing yourself from the heart and, like life experiences and all that, so sometimes I'm not going to have anything worthy for a reel, I'm living a life. I spent like the entire like last week working on a commission for one of my best friends instead of working on my portfolio for portfolio day. And while I ended up like going to bed like 6 a.m. for one of those days, I don't regret it, because not only did I get paid, but most importantly, it was for one of my best friends. And I was proud of the experience. So, I'm happy with that. And I do want to, this year especially, just make more art for me. And just like not care if it looks messy, not care if, I'm not like trying something new or whatever. Just for fun,
Yeah. And I'm like, I think I, in a similar boat, just trying to decouple work for fun, work for work.
Yeah.
And I think I've just constantly, even like in college and like even post grad, like constantly making work to see where it would take me, and kind of dropped the things that I like doing for fun. And it's just like, why did I drop that?
Yeah.
So been trying to decouple that. This past year has been like a trying to figure that out. And this year, I think it's like, well, I'm just not going to do anything art related. Whatever projects I do, whatever hobbies I have, like I'm going to make sure they're not art related and see like what comes out of that. What part of this process do I miss? What part of this do I want to do? What interests me? And trying to not make it about work. Because I think if I just don't do it, I will miss it. And then I'll be like, well, what do I miss? And that has been my thought process
find that
so far.
inspiration. Yeah. Will help you appreciate it in a way you didn't before. Yeah, I agree.
So, work life, baby.
Yeah. To innovation.
But yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah.
Because I like the work I do. It's just I don't think I like doing it for me, which is interesting.
Right.
So, because there's a lot of aspects of animation that I don't enjoy. So when I start making personal work and I'm sitting here, I'm like, I fucking hate doing this.
Right.
And it's just like, well, if I hate doing this, why am I doing this in particular?
Right.
So,
I guess like personally, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, but that's the process right now. It's like, well, I hate cleanup. It's like, why am I cleaning this up? Like, why do this part?
Right.
Because you want a polished thing online for people to be wowed by.
Yeah.
That's the answer. So it's like, damn, gotta figure this shit out.
Yeah. And especially since like I'm the type of person where it's like, you know, I could like, there's one task and like in one box, like I gotta do for myself, and the other box I'm doing it for a friend. I am absolutely going to put way more effort into doing it for someone else rather than doing it for me. And that's something that I personally have to just like unpack as to why I feel like it's not worth it to put passion into something I'm doing exclusively for myself. And, you know, artists in general, just like, you know, it's your art. You know, feel free to express yourself and do it for you. Be self-indulgent, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be for the hashtags. It does not.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't posted in social media regularly in a long time, and I've been a lot happier for it.
Yeah.
But just don't post as much as I do. And then it makes you question, like, well, how does this affect me professionally? But that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it just sucks because it's like, I have a website, I have work. Just I don't need to post every day. Don't make me post every day.
Yeah, I could never. And like, I know some people are like cuter posts, and it's like, no, I'm a person, and I want to sleep. So respect that.
I mean, so people out here that do it, respect to them.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. I hope they don't burn out.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, shit's tough. Shit's hard out here.
It really is. But I think we have like some pretty good conversation, but I think this is about time where we can transition to some viewer questions.
Yeehaw!
All right. So I have a couple from two viewers.
All right.
One of my friends, Jara, who helped co-edit a lot of the video, they submitted 3 questions. So I'm just gonna rattle them down sequentially.
Okay.
First off, if not under NDA, what are some plot threads that you want to see explored in the potential second season of MGFS?
There probably won't be a second season. Just because TZGZ, which is like the animation section of Sci-Fi, has not updated anything in a long time. So I doubt anything will come out of Sci-Fi. And they also canceled like a show that they were gonna make with like the creator of Moral Oral or something. And that got, I know.
I even hear about that. Man.
Yeah, so I have a feeling TZGZ is kind of on an indefinite hiatus.
At best, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the details. This is just my guess from seeing things.
Yeah.
But what I don't really have a whole lot of say in what happens in the second season, assuming there ever is one, just because I'm just the animation director. But nonetheless, the storyboard lead and I, Marika, who you interviewed, would joke about a sports episode, like in a beach episode. Like we just like in general wanted more anime to be written in as opposed to just be visual. So that was kind of on the wish list of things of like, give us the beach episode. Yeah. Let's like dive into sports anime for an episode. Like let's but that no plot really, but just writing more anime to be like in the episode would have been fun.
Yeah. You know, I don't know like when these are gonna come out because like I manage this entire show myself, so I don't care. I am going to reuse a previous joke. But when I was talking with Marika, I had half joked with an idea that I had with Jira, where I'm just like, you know, Aggregon probably would go into NFT.
Oh man. The problem, here's the problem with animation in general, is it because production takes so long. If you have a timely joke, it's going to be old by the time the show comes out.
Right.
So NFTs would have to still be the prime conversation in order for this to work.
Right.
But God.
It's nail on the head.
Yeah.
Okay. Second question. What have been some of your favorite eureka moments you've gotten to share with your crew during brainstorming sessions?
I think the Nuts World thing that I was talking about earlier, that was cool. I mean, otherwise, like, we mostly followed the script for certain things.
Right.
And I think the fight at the very last episode was primarily Peter, who was the board lead.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really written into the script at all. Like there's barely anything. So Peter was just given freedom to kind of do whatever they wanted. Yeah. And that was cool to like see that be built. But I think that was kind of the most amount of eureka kind of moments, because otherwise you mostly had a script. Most of the designs had to be like approved by like sci-fi, and like the ones that we really wanted like were like a struggle to get. But I guess that's about as far as eureka kind of went from what I remember. It's been a while too.
Yeah, that's understandable. And third question, is funny stoner lady trans real? Which is basically Jera translated. You know, we've definitely talked about this as to whether or not Daisy is trans. So just like feel free to give your 2 cents on our headcanon.
So depends on what your definition of canon is, because from concept, Daisy wasn't meant to be trans, and the reason why we even put in the trans flags was because we kept getting these weird notes from sci-fi about Daisy's design, which I wish I could remember. But we were like, fuck it, Daisy's trans now. So we put the flags in there. But she wasn't conceptually meant to be trans, and clearly it wasn't written to be that way. It wasn't obviously voice acted this way.
Right.
So it really just depends on what your definition is. But like myself, Marika, and Kelsey were just sitting there like, this note sucks. Let's just put trans flags on everything now. I wish I could remember what the note was, but it was just kind of like, you don't think women can look like that? Like, okay. Well, we're gonna make her a real woman now. She's trans. So,
and we're all better for it.
Yeah. So again, depends on what your definition of canon is. But like, I would hope that if we could have a second season, we could like, I don't know how you write it, because again, we come back to the problem of like explaining things to an audience rather than just letting a person live and be a character.
Yeah.
So I don't know how she would be written to the script this way.
Right.
But you would hope that it could be implemented canonically, and I put this in quotes because again, it depends on what you feel about canon.
Yeah.
But the running joke, not even a joke, but the running headcanon, I guess, like in the studio is that Daisy's trans.
All right, great.
So, and I didn't answer this question for a long time because I had no idea where the show was going to be. And I was like, I don't know if there is a second season. I don't know if it's for me to say this. I didn't know. But now that everything's kind of nebulous, I might as well just say what my thoughts were about this. Because she's written to be a lesbian from concept. That's been true.
Of course.
But the trans thing kind of came in when production started. So, yes and no. Again, depends on how someone views canon.
Yeah. Well, it is my podcast, and what I say goes. So, hey, fuck it.
Fair.
I'm saying she's trans.
All right, fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And, you know, like, again, like, just for me, just because, like, watching that show, you know, if, like, anything would ever be explored with that in the future, you know, I guess, like, personally, I just felt like Dave's character was stronger when I viewed the stuff she was going through that lens, and the show didn't have to be explicit with that. So it's like, I know it was, like, in your guys' like, in the back of your heads, but it's like, even if it wasn't explicit, it didn't need to be, because at least, like, me personally, I was able to connect the dots.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing I liked about the script was, like, she's clearly a lesbian, but, like, we don't talk about it. We don't need to talk about it. Like, she's just gay. Like, that's it. So that's one thing I was happy with the scripts, as far as, like, this is, like, I guess, like, the kind of representation, like, I want to see is, like, it is a queer person existing, and that's not the plot point. There isn't a coming out. There isn't, like, a whole plot about how I'm gay. Oh boy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, just exist.
Yeah.
And be chill, and that's it.
Yeah.
So there's, like, certain visual things we flagged. I think she was wearing rainbow underwear at one point.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I don't know, what self-respecting queer doesn't own a rainbow something? Like, so.
and just, like, all the posters that, you know, just, like, decorates their apartment. It's like, you know, like, come on.
Yeah. So that, I guess, like, going back to the representation question real quick, is, like, that's what I want. I just want people to exist. Be part of the story, and that's it.
Yeah. Very valid. Very right. And again, like I said earlier, I agree. And I might have to do a bit of workshopping with this final question.
Okay.
So Artiste TB asked favorite dirty phrase when working on MGFS. So I guess, like, just like a raunchy joke or something.
Oh man, I haven't watched these episodes in a long time.
I've had too many, so but no, this is your question, not mine.
I know. I'm trying to remember. Damn. There was one that made me laugh out loud reading the script, and I can't remember what it was. Which, like, doesn't happen super often reading a script. Usually you see it and you laugh, as opposed to, like, reading a script the way things work for me. I don't remember. I have no idea. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Like, I will say, just to rescue you, like, one of the moments, like, from the show that legitimately, like, did make me laugh. It was one of the episodes, you know, like, when they were at Aggregon, you know, the Outrage Farm, when they were in that slide, and Daisy just, like, grabs that dude who was trying to argue the hot dogs for sandwiches, and she, like, goes on this, like, huge, like, blood-filled rant.
Right. Yes. Yes. The sandwich debate. The great sandwich debate. I have gotten into arguments with friends about the sandwich debate. So
oh my God. It
was a very real joke. But that is a good one. I think that I think we're going to go into gross jokes. I think with that episode, the one where Alex makes blood rain down was good. I was like, yeah, we're going to have a shower period blood here.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, why not?
So that one was nice to put in. We did try to do a joke that Sci-Fi caught So it didn't get put in canonically. It was in the last episode with the fight. And I don't know if you remember, it was like Coffee Dude and Corbin were like kind of holding each other.
Yeah.
And the boards, they were making out in the background. But Sci-Fi was like, why is this happening? And we were like,
why not?
Why not? So it got axed. Instead, it was just like Corbin like holding and like Coffee Dude being like, okay.
Yeah, but they're still exchanging glances at the elevator. So it's like,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, we tried, you try to put in what you can.
Yeah.
But if you look at the boards, actual boards, there's an actual drawing of them like holding each other. And like, but had to get scrapped.
Truly, the MLM rep we didn't deserve, but we still needed.
I did. Yeah. We didn't ask for it, but we sure did deserve it.
Yeah. Okay. So, closing statements. What are you currently working on, or what can we look forward to you doing in the future?
So, I am currently unemployed.
Up top.
So, currently looking for work, which I'm sure something will come soon. I have like a couple of people reaching out. So hopefully something will come. So I have no idea what you will look forward to. I don't even know what I'm looking forward to currently. So we'll see what happens there. But as I said earlier, no personal projects right now. Trying to put that on the back burner. So I will be extremely boring on the internet right now. But you can check out my socials if you want to see nothing. This is the best promotion I've ever done for myself. I'm not doing anything. I'm happy not doing anything. And here's my Twitter.
Man, that's the life I want to live.
Yep. So unemployed, but not worried about it right now, which is nice. That's the important part. I'm not worried about it right now. I'll worry about it later this month. But for now, I'm just gonna chill the fuck out.
As you should.
I mean, I worked on a reality show. I don't know if I could say anything about the reality show. So I don't know if like that's anything to look forward to. But it was a very fun, stupid project that I will look forward to.
Oh, that's so cool. Like, definitely. Like, whenever that's, like, out in the wild, like, definitely let me know.
Oh, yeah, I'll let everybody know.
Oh, yeah, please do.
This funny little reality show.
Oh, man. And I think with that, we can finally wrap. This has been a great episode with a lot of, like, great discussion. So, yeah, it was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you've been a great guest, and as always, I say to all my guests, if you ever want to come back and just like shill any other stuff you're doing, feel free.
Will do. It's been great.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, this has been another episode of the KashCast. I have been Cash.
I'm Kay.
And we will both catch you next time. Just remember to take care, stay safe, wear a mask for the love of God.
Please.
And just take care of yourself. Love and peace always. Adios.